Hello and welcome to Casual Marketing. I'll be your host, Just James, and today I want to do a quick conversation on the importance of Performance Max. It's a Google Ads tool that's really known in the industry as this massive black box that you don't get a lot of controls, and it's made some marketers a little weary about the tool, but I'm here to tell you should probably give it a shot. It has a couple key benefits that I'll go over shortly, but first I want to just show you how to set it up because it's actually really simple and only requires a couple steps. So let's jump right into that and then we'll go over some pros and cons. All right, so I'm in an account that I control and I just want to quickly show you some of the basics of setting up Performance Max. It's actually really simple, but it's good to just go through it and so that everyone can see it. So what you would do is you would go here and create campaign and then new campaign. And once that loads, what I typically do is just create a campaign without a goals guidance. This is just nice because you can immediately see all of your options. And what you'll see is Performance Max immediately listed, and it says reach audiences across all of Google with a single campaign. This is going to use all of Google's different platforms to give you the opportunity to create conversions, which is most likely sales. This is a really powerful e-commerce tool, and that's really where I'm kind of focusing this conversation is e-commerce businesses. They stand to gain the most at the moment with this tool. So we'll click that, and immediately what you'll see is it's asking to choose which conversion action or conversion goal as Google Ads works. And for e-com, you're probably just going to want to worry about purchases. So I'll immediately kind of hide these other ones, which is page views and getting phone call leads. You could use those in your goal as well, but I've seen the most success with focusing on e-com. And the only extra thing that I won't show in this video because it really requires a video of its own. If you're trying to get sales, you're going to want to create a Google Merchant Center account. You're going to want to make sure your products are actively being synced to Merchant Center. It's very important to do that just to show up organically when people are using that shopping tab on Google search. So this is just an important step you should do regardless of Performance Max. But once you have that set up, it should actually show down here, and it'll basically make you select which Merchant Center account you want to use. And that's where it's going to pull all your product data from. So it's very important. You're not doing a ton of custom work with Performance Max. So that's why you really want to make sure everything is kind of set up beforehand with your products and all the information from whatever store you're using. It's incredibly easy to do with Shopify. I'll make a video in the future on how to do that if you need help, but also feel free to reach out to me if anyone ever needs assistance. But once you have that selected, now we can hit continue, and it's going to just have us name it. So I'll leave that as the default. And now the first question, which there won't be many, I assure you, but here's the first one that you kind of get shown, which is your bidding strategy. And it's pretty simple. Do you want conversion value or do you want conversions? So basically, do you just want a lot of volume? Do you want people buying products regardless of what the optimized value is to hit whatever your profit targets are? Or is that what you want? Do you want to really try and hone in on a specific set of values so that you are like guaranteeing profit with the money that you're putting down? Every business has different goals at different times. So it's really going to be more dependent for you, the marketer, and what your business is looking for. I will say that if you don't have a lot of data and you just made a Google Merchant account, and you haven't done a ton of Google Ads, I would recommend focusing on just conversions because you really just need volume. You really need to feed more data into the system. But if you look over here on the right, they'll kind of give us some information based on the account and what to expect. But if you have a new account, I wouldn't put much real energy into looking at this right now. It's just simply too soon. But you can do things like set a target cost per action, so you can basically give Google an idea of what you're aiming for. These are all good things to do. It's just keep in mind this is very AI, it's very analytical and automated. So just something to keep in mind that you may want to keep it simple if you're just getting started. For accounts that have a lot of data and their merchant centers have been set up for a long time, feel free to hone it in a little bit because you're not going to get too many additional options after these couple settings. So if we go next, if we leave bidding, we'll immediately see some sort of standard campaign settings, which is where do you want to actually show ads. You do get control over that, which is obviously important. So in this case, I'm just going to focus on United States. You can pick the preferred language of what your customers speak, and then you get some control over your final URL expansion. So you can basically have it kind of figure out where to send traffic to, which is most relevant, or you can send it to these like really specific URLs that you've set within the campaign. Usually I just leave it to relevant URLs on your site. And if we click more settings here, you just see a couple standard things that we've seen with other Google campaigns. You can kind of control the flighting, which is when your ad will run. You can also send your start and end date, which is obviously really important if you're working with the fixed budget. And then just some of these additional URL options on how you kind of want things to work in terms of potentially UTMs, just for tracking and things like that. And if we hit next, now we're immediately into the asset group. As you can see, we haven't really done a ton of targeting or demographic data. We're just sort of immediately getting into how we want to structure the ad. So you can see it's immediately asking me questions about my Merchant Center account. Right now it's just set to all products, but you could have it only do a selection of products if you have a particularly large store. But I will say the best results are when you kind of let this do its own thing. I work with a company that sells thousands of different products on their store, and I just let it kind of optimize on its own and leave specialty products to other types of campaigns. Let this run with as many options as possible. That just seems to create the best results. But if I scroll down here, you can immediately see it's pretty standard for Google Ads. It's where do you want the URL to land. You can add images, you can add logos. They will actually make videos for you with the imagery that you provide if you want Google to do that. And you can also, do your usual headlines, long headlines, descriptions, the business name, any site links you want to use. The call to action can even be automated where it'll kind of figure it out on its own. And you can actually see up here, YouTube, Gmail, search, display, and discover. These are all of the different places that this ad will show, which is all Google properties. So really a wide net on the internet that will follow people around, which is great. And what you'll see down here is audience signal. And this is designed to allow you to basically point Google in the right direction, so they have an idea of where to focus. So this is data that you can submit. You would need a fair amount of it. Like if we were going to do emails or things like that, you can't just do a small amount of data and really point in the right direction. You need quite a lot. So for newer businesses that are new to a lot of this stuff, don't worry about it. But if you're a larger business and you're getting into some of these additional tools, that's where you could really take that information and just help point everything in the right direction. So highly recommend if you have it. But that's ad creation. And now if we go, we're already into budget, which, obviously Google will do some recommendations. You can just do a custom budget, whatever you feel comfortable if you have a set budget. Pretty self-explanatory there. And if we move on, we are already in the summary section where now it's just going to check for errors, make sure that we've submitted everything correctly, and you're off to the races. The next step is publish campaign. It is incredibly simple, and it's really crazy when you think about it that you can create this entire campaign that will run ads for all of your products in the blink of an eye. But that's really how simple it is to get this started. Obviously, you have to have Merchant Center set up already, so that can be a little time consuming. But launching Performance Max is quick and easy. So yeah, I just wanted you to have an idea of how to actually set this up and see how simple it is. But let's take a moment and I'll go over some of the kind of major pros and cons to keep in mind before you launch this, or if you're thinking about launching this. So that was just a quick rundown on how to actually set up Performance Max. I do want to go over a couple major just pros and cons before you get started, because it is really easy to set up, but it's also easy to get in a lot of trouble with these. So first off, pros are it's very easy to set up. You can launch it very quickly and get moving. The problem is, the caveat to that specifically, is that because you don't have a lot of control over the targeting, and because it really is a black box in terms of how it kind of does everything in targets, it can take a while for performance to pick up. And so if you're going to launch one of these campaigns, don't expect to see results in a couple of days. Give this a couple weeks and make sure it has sufficient budget to run throughout the day to really collect that data. Especially if you're a newer business, it takes time for Google to figure this out and to figure out where to actually target and where your customer is, and really like when is the best time to show these ads to your customer. So just keep that in mind. It's not going to be super quick. That's sort of the double-edged sword of being simple. So that's like step one. Just keep that in mind. The next thing that you'll want to understand is, once again, because it's a black box, there's even been a couple articles written on this, the reality is that you don't have a lot of control. And if you're already running Google Ads campaigns, maybe you're running search or display or discovery, you might start running into some cannibalization of your ads, because Performance Max definitely goes for the low-hanging fruit and pays very close attention to customers that are on your site, how they're interacting. And so if you have search ads, display, discovery, any of that is kind of set up to do a similar thing, if you're really looking at remarketing with those different campaign types, you could have cannibalization. So you want to also keep that in mind if you're already running these types of campaigns, that can happen. And you may want to adjust budget accordingly and then kind of figure out what's driving the best results. Maybe your search, you're just keeping it really honed in on specific things that you want to guarantee you show up. And maybe Performance Max kind of is the catch-all for everything else, because they will focus on the low-hanging fruit. Please keep that in mind. That is definitely one of the main goals with Performance Max. Those are probably some of the only like really major things I would worry about. And I think the last part that I'll just reiterate is the fact that you will want to get Google Merchant Center set up properly. And that is a completely different tool, separate of Google Ads, that you connect to Google Ads, and it syncs all of your different products from your store. If you have something like Shopify, it's relatively easy to integrate. Google, I believe, has an official app. Like I said, I'll try and make a video in the future, but if you just do a quick search, it's not too bad to set up. And once you get that set up, your products will actually be showing up organically in the shopping tab. So that's a nice thing to do regardless of Performance Max. But once that's all set up, connected to your account, now you can select it when you're launching. And that's the only real major thing you have to do before you start this campaign. That like without a doubt is the main goal, because then you can generate sales. Like I said, this is more of an e-commerce tool. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, if you have any questions or you feel like you need any support for digital marketing, feel free to reach out to me at justjames@casualmarketing.info. I'm happy to help. I'm not here to sell any product. I'm not trying to make any money off of this in particular. I just want to provide genuine digital marketing information to the masses. So just let me know if you need anything, but otherwise, have a great day.